No one grows up dreaming of owning a cleaning business, but what if I told you one of mine did over £1.3 million in only 3 years, without vans, without hiring staff, and without needing to be on site every single day? Now, my name is Nathan Ellingham and I am the founder of the Service Company Creator, and welcome to this Netflix style series. Now, if you are new to this channel, we talk about everything remote service businesses. Essentially, any physical service that can be applied to a building or to the grounds is where our model can be applied. Now, over the next 5 episodes, I'm going to give you a complete no-nonsense breakdown of who we are, what we do, and exactly how this model works, so you can then make the decision if it is the right fit for you or not. Now, this isn't a highlights reel, it's not hype, and it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. I simply have a business model that works on repeat, and now I teach it to others. So this series is designed so that by the time you get to the final episode, you'll have a full understanding of what the Service Company Creator actually is, how the remote service business model works, who this is for, who it's not for, and whether this is something you genuinely want to pursue to replace your 9 to 5 or add on an additional income stream. Now, each episode has a clear purpose. Episode 1 is about orientation, understanding the SCC and the model at high level. Episode 2 is my story, how I went from being a barrister's clerk, stressed, not wanting to get up in the morning, to building and selling service businesses that gave me freedom financially and bought back my time. Episode 3 is a deep dive into the business model itself, a full step-by-step breakdown of how the model actually works. Episode 4 breaks down real results from real people inside the SCC, our real clients who have got real businesses that have replaced their incomes and their 9 to 5s. And episode 5 is about how to take action if this is the right fit for you. Now, the reason I'm doing this series is pretty simple. There is a lot of noise online. The trust in the online space is at an all-time low, and a lot of people are selling outcomes without ever actually showing the process, or they've even been through the process themselves. Now, I hope you will see from this series that I genuinely want to help people. Yes, the SCC is a business for me. I am a businessman at the end of the day. But the one thing I am extremely passionate about is helping people in business, because I know how hard it was for me when I first got started, and you need all the support that you can get. Now, service businesses can be defined as a slightly boring business model, but they work on repeat, and they certainly aren't going to get taken over by AI anytime soon. They are essential, they're repeatable, they can be ran completely remotely from anywhere in the world if built properly. They give you control over your time, over your income, over your life, but only if you understand the model. So instead of short clips, buzzwords, or vague promises, I wanted to create a real asset, something that you can watch from start to finish and actually understand what's involved. So my suggestion is watch the full series, comment on any video with anything you are not sure of, or DM me on Instagram and I can address any questions directly on there as well. Now, in a moment, I'm going to move over to my whiteboard and give you a clear roadmap of the Service Company Creator, how it works, what we focus on, and why this model actually exists. This will set the foundation for everything else in this series. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's go through the SCC. The SCC is kind of what everyone has nicknamed us, Service Company Creator, so we run with it. All the clients seem to find it a lot easier. So we'll go in a clockwise direction. We're going to go through who we are, what we do, why this exists, our core promise, who this is for, and obviously who it's actually not for as well. Like I said, we can't help everyone, so you'll understand why that is when we get to that point. Now, who we are. So the SCC is an education and mentorship. We are business coaches at the end of the day. We focus everything around mentorship and a hand-holding approach. You're starting a business at the end of the day. You know, you need to have your hand held through this process. And you know, I'm a prime example of that. When I first started my first business, it was quite chaotic because I just didn't really know what I was doing, in all honesty. Now, there are so many of you out there, if you're watching this series, you want to start a business. You want everything that comes along with being your own boss and being an entrepreneur, but not knowing how to do it is one of the hardest things. How do I get started is a question that we're commonly asked. We run a remote service business model. So throughout this series, you'll understand exactly more around what that is and how it works. Essentially, a business that can be run remotely from anywhere in the world. You don't have to attend sites. You can run it as a hybrid model if you want to. We've got clients that do that. I used to do a bit of a hybrid model, but now in my current business, I don't do that at all. I let my contractors do everything, which is a lot easier for me. It means that I can focus on the SCC and helping clients. We run a outsourcing contractor model, so we only use contractors. Very rarely will we recommend to someone where they could take on staff at certain points. The reason being is that you save all of the headaches around staff. Everything that we take a look at is focused around systems, lead generation, and obviously like the setup of the businesses and the contractors and things like that, which I'll explain in a moment. And we are not a course. I always like to make that crystal clear. We are not a course. I can't teach you how to run a business off the back of just giving you 100 videos. Yes, we do have a portal that has tutorials, documentation, everything like that. But we still have to teach you through that process. So we run a one-to-one setup, especially at the start of the mentorship, group coaching setups and things like that as well, which is really, really important. We have a fantastic community where everyone helps each other out in business. But honestly, if you are thinking about starting one of these businesses, even if you're not going to work with us, you need to have your hand held through that process. It's really, really important because there are so many mistakes that you can make. And obviously, I made a lot of those mistakes, which the guys in the SCC now don't make, which is nice. So that's a brief background on kind of who we are. What we do is, again, the full education and mentorship of these businesses. Anything from opening a limited company all the way through to operations, sales, pricing, contractors, scaling the business, lead generation, everything like that. So full business setup. We actually build your website for you. The reason being is that we understand that not everyone knows how to build a website, or yes, you can go and pay someone to build a website. But what we found is actually having a little bit more control over the websites with us meant that we could get some really good organic lead generation going straight away from good SEO, local optimization. So we actually build your website for you now inside of the SCC mentorship, which again is just a kind of a time saver. We found that most of our clients now will be set up and looking at lead generation within 2 weeks. You're starting a business, you're straight into operations and sales within a 2-week process. I mean, anyone that you speak to that has set up a business before, they'd be pretty happy with that. Where what we were seeing was things were a little bit slow with people building their own websites and things like that. So we just decided to tick that box and say, we'll do it for you, which was perfect. We then look at integrating the right services into the business. Now, this is a really good one because, this is obviously our businesses, the businesses that we own, myself and my coaches. We know the services that are working well in the market right now, especially like in the UK space. Some of the services are just an absolute no-brainer to have into the business. And when you know the right ones, it means that you can start lead generation really, really easily because we're only targeting certain services. We tend to roughly put about 8 to 10 services into a business at the start, but we won't necessarily advertise for all of those services. Some of those services can be like really good upsells, for example. So let's say you took commercial contract cleaning. We had a school cleaning contract, for example. Well, then we've got additional services in the business: window cleaning, gutters, carpet hard floors, pressure and jet washing, adding on something like pest removal or waste removal. Pest control, waste removal. They are really good upsells onto those commercial contracts. And again, to reiterate, these services can be applied domestically as well, but I like most of my clients to really push that commercial work, which we know builds a real sellable entity. The margins are a lot better. Some of the domestic work's fantastic. Most of our clients do start off there. because lead cost is a lot cheaper and things like that. And you just get to understand how the business works, how your contractors operate, and just get to understand the processes really, and obviously pricing and things like that. And you still make good money on domestic work. We've got clients that only do domestic work, and they're really, really profitable. We've also got clients that then go to commercial work, and we're now talking about pushing towards £1 million businesses kind of thing. We then help you onboard contractors. Now, contractors, we notice a lot of clients or people that aren't even a client, something will come up, how do contractors operate, or how do we even speak to contractors? What happens if a contractor steals your work? That's a common one. Contractors are honestly the easy bit. There are so many people out there looking for more work, whether they're a smaller business, they're an independent contractor, or maybe they've actually got quite a good sized business. They still want the work. And there's some of the companies that I've worked with, £50 million companies that have done work for me because they have more staff and things like that, and they're great to utilise. I've also worked with really, really good independent contractors that are looking to expand, and that's great. They expand with me. One of my first contractors, the gentleman that bought my last company off me, he was a one-man band by himself. He's now got 10, 11 vans that run around doing window cleaning, gutters, pressure jet washing. Absolutely, he basically does everything now. So you can actually grow with your contractors. And in terms of contractors stealing your work, there's kind of an unwritten rule in the industry that you just simply don't do it, to be honest. At the same time, we actually put all of our contractors on a contract that legally states that they are not allowed to approach our clients. So if anything did happen, then we have a really good legal standpoint, if that's the case. It's one of those things, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And as long as you're working with the right contractors, it comes along with developing the relationship, then they're not going to do that. Then, of course, we show you exactly how to get clients. So we have a system that is focused around lead generation. It involves things like Google LSA. You can implement things like checker trade. We have different strategies around email automation, things like that. Other paid advertising methods as well, or other organic approaches. We go through all of this with you to see what you want to structure into your business. And that is really important. We have some that we tend to recommend like really, really early on, like Google LSA is a fantastic resource in order to get good inbound lead generation. Inbound lead generation is simply where clients come directly to you. You're not having to do all the outbound approach. So we show you exactly how to implement a lead generation engine, essentially, which can involve a number of different strategies, especially as you progress the business. And you want to have a more commercial approach. Well, we integrate something like checker trade, which we know has really, really good commercial leads. Lead cost is a little bit higher, but that can all still be managed at the same time for certain budgets in the business, because we're always managing cash flow as well. This is where the SEC is kind of a one-stop shop, like things like cash flow and actually business, admin, taxes. We can help with all of that, which is really, really important, so that you're not having to try and go out and learn these different things. We want you to learn everything from us, which is really important. So that's essentially what we do. Now, why this exists. Now, I developed a real passion for helping people. It's something that I've always really enjoyed, and especially when I started my businesses and people were seeing that I was doing really well with my companies. I had people approaching me and asking me, how I did it, what did I do, what strategies have I implemented, things like that. And that's essentially how the SEC formed in totality. I was working with one-to-one clients in London, mainly helping cleaning companies grow their businesses, whilst obviously still running my businesses at the same time. And then the SEC came about. We had COVID come along. I switched to an online model, and then I realised, actually, do you know what? We can help a lot of people online. And here we are today with the SEC, with just some of the most incredible clients that we have. So something that I'm really, really proud of is the way that we are helping so many people, because I was in that position. My 9-to-5 background, I worked as a barrister's clerk for 11 years. In the next episode, I'm going to go through my story in a lot more detail, so you have a full understanding of who I am, who you're potentially going to be working with. And I remember, the feeling of not wanting to get up in the morning. I didn't want to get on the train to work, and then standing on the tube. I used to get the Central Line in London, and I just got so fed up with it. If I had the help that we offer now to startup companies and even existing companies that are looking to scale, then I probably would have left my 9 to 5 a lot quicker. And I also probably would have started a lot sooner as well, because I was the kind of person that looked around for ideas probably since I was about 17, 18. And, I didn't start my first business until, 7 years later. And I worked in a 9 to 5 for a long time. It's a real passion of mine, being able to kind of help everyone with this kind of setup and this business. The contractor model, the reason why we operate the contractor model is something that I came across. So when I started my first business, I was hiring staff. Staff become a real headache, not turning up for work. I had vans smashed. I don't know if you know, there's a YouTube video somewhere about one of my staff members that smashed a van up. We had a transit van. He completely smashed the entire side of the van up, and it cost me £3,500 to get it fixed, which at the time I was only really a startup business, so you can imagine that was a bit of a headache. I switched to a contractor model and literally never looked back. All of the issues with staff completely went away, and I realised how easy it was to actually scale because I could take on more work. I expand, I take on more contractors, I branch out into more locations, and scaling became really, really easy at that point. I could, if you know about my Tesla contract, I could take on a Tesla contract that was completely nationwide and just bring in more contractors in order to do that. So the contractor model is why that exists and exactly kind of how that can help scale. Also landing commercial clients. Now I found in the early stages of my business that trying to land commercial clients was quite hard. I found it very, very easy to get domestic work. There's so much domestic work out there, but there is actually so much commercial work out there. It's just knowing how to get hold of it. So the SEC model, when we're looking to scale you, incorporates commercial clients into the business, which again, like I said, builds that sellable entity with contract work. And the margins become a lot better. The work tends to be a lot bigger, which again, of course, means more profits. And then scaling to become your own boss or even exit your business. Now, if you don't know, obviously I worked the 9 to 5 and I became my own boss. That's going to be the story for a lot of you, I assume, because you are going to want to have that ownership and be your own boss, have more control. And then exiting, so my second business I ran for 4 months, had a contract with Tesla, and then I sold that business. So exiting is something that we also help clients do if they get to a certain point and they decide that they want to sell the business. Well, we go through exactly what we've built. We've built a sellable entity and then how we sell that business. So again, scaling, really, really important. You get to work full time on the business. You either run it as a full-time income at that point or pass it down to children, grandchildren, whatever that kind of looks like. And then potentially one day you want to exit the business. You exit for a cash exit, which is a no-brainer in some cases. It was for me. So our core promise. Now, our core promise is to replace your 9 to 5 or your income. That is our core promise to you. If you tell me you're doing £100,000 per month already, then firstly, you probably wouldn't be here, but it might take us a little bit longer to replace your 9 to 5. We have an average rule of thumb that we can scale one of these businesses to £5,000 per month in profit in a 4 to 6 month time frame. That's based on existing client results and simply how we can look to scale these businesses in that time frame with the work that's involved. We know that that's quite an easy target to hit. So our promise is that we will replace your income and then if you want to scale further, there's a conversation and we will scale that business even further with you. Alternatively, you're just looking to build an additional income stream. Now, if you're looking to build an additional income stream as kind of a bit of a side hustle, I guess, side profits, then you're probably talking more 2 to 3 grand a month in profit because you're not going to be putting as much work in as the guys that are looking to fully replace their income full time because they drop down to 2-3 days a week, whatever that looks like, moving forward. and then they put more work into the business. Obviously, the business grows a lot quicker. If you're looking to do it more as a kind of a side hustle, even to start with, 2 to 3 grand a month in profit is a realistic target. You'll see throughout this series that I don't talk about unrealistic numbers because, again, it just doesn't make sense. This is where the trust in the online space is very low, because I could stand there and tell you, yeah, we can get you to 100 grand a month in the next 6 months. Well, that's absolute rubbish. I can assure you that's not going to happen. You would have to land a pretty impressive contract. And don't get me wrong, we've seen some amazing results. I'll talk about one of my clients, Curtis, later on in the series, who we recently just helped out price, and he won a £100,000 per year contract. It's actually probably going to be more than that now, nationwide, and it shows he's only been working with us 6 months. So they're the main two. We will also promise that you will not be on the tools. We run this business completely remotely, and we show you exactly how to do that with the contractor model. That means that you'll have no staff headaches. So we are not going to ask you to hire staff at any point during your business. There are certain contracts and things like that where, yes, you could potentially hire staff, but as of today, we haven't had anyone take on any staff members just yet. When it comes to scaling further, taking on a contract manager or something like that, then that's where we can potentially take on staff members, because they're only going to help us scale. And finally, you have our full support. We are a mentorship. So you have the full support of everyone at the SCC. Every box is ticked, and we make sure that you are not left alone. At the same time, you have to put the work in yourself. But my advice is always lean on us. Lean on us, we're going to help. We're going to help you scale this business, replace your income, whatever your goal is. Okay, so 2 more to get through: who this is for and who this is not for. So this is for 9 to 5 working professionals, anyone that's kind of working a 9 to 5 job at the moment. It's easy to be able to structure this kind of business around your current 9 to 5 in order to go full time on the business. If you are from any type of trade background, again, some trades we can actually integrate into the business, or we've got other people. Curtis is an example. He's an electrician by trade, but he wanted to completely come away from the electrician side of things. So 9 to 5 professionals, trade backgrounds, if you're self-employed, will be able to help. People who want more freedom. Now, freedom comes in so many different sectors: finance, time, location, your purpose in life, without getting too deep. But people that want freedom, then this is a really good first business model to get into, because we know how easy it is to scale. And replace your income, and in turn giving you the freedom of course, being your own boss. Those that can follow a system and of course are coachable. Now that's really important. We have systems. Everything that we do is by a system. The infrastructure of the business, all the way through to the online setup framework, onboarding contractors, lead generation, sales, operations, everything's done in systems. That makes life easier for you. So as long as you can follow that system, you'll get the results. It's pretty simple. And of course, you can be coached. We are business coaches. You have to be able to listen to our feedback. And sometimes that might mean that you might not always hear what you want to hear, but that is how we get the results that we do at the SCC, because we know what works. We're always open to feedback. I'm always open to feedback. But you need to be able to be coached, which is really, really important. And if you have no experience, that's not an issue. If you literally have 0 experience in starting a business, then again, really good first business model for you to start. Could be the one that you run for the rest of your life. Great. And also, anyone that essentially is running a service-based business already, you're doing up to £25,000 per month in revenue. That's the cap that we stop working with. Because if you're doing over 25 grand a month, then really you should have most of these systems in place. If you don't think you have, and you still want to speak to us, that's fine. Just make a note when we're speaking with you, and we can see if we can definitely help. Because honestly, we will tell you if we can't help you. So yeah, anyone that owns a service-based business up to 25 grand a month in revenue, we can definitely help you as well. Okay, so who this is not for. if you have a get rich quick mindset, this business model is not going to get you rich quickly. Doesn't work like that. It's not overnight success, as you can see here. You won't just be successful overnight. It involves work. It involves integrating the right strategies, building out the right systems, making sure that we've got the right contractors in place. Again, everything that we help with. So if you're thinking, I want to get rich quick, don't contact us. It's not the right business model for you. I don't think there's any business models out there like that anymore, I'm afraid. And then, of course, you are unwilling to be coached. So everything that we went through in terms of the coaching, if you feel like you can't be coached, especially in business, then we can't work with you. And you are lazy. If you are lazy, you are not willing to put the work in, there is only so much my team and I can do, because you need to be able to implement everything that we mentor you with. We are a done with you setup. Yes, your website is done for you. So great, you haven't got to do that. But everything else we do with you. So it's important to understand that you can't be lazy. And to be honest, if you're here watching this series, I highly doubt you are, because you're actually looking at taking some action on whatever's going on for you right now. So that's the SCC, that's who we are, that is who we can help, that's our core promise to you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next series, where we're going to break down my story a little bit more. I'll see you soon.